Okay, I want you to picture a scenario. It's a sunny day in California. A group of protesters marches up the steps of the state capitol building. But they aren't holding signs. They are carrying loaded .357 Magnums, 12-gauge shotguns, and rifles. They walk right past the security guards and onto the legislative floor. Now imagine the governor of that state is conservative icon Ronald Reagan, and imagine the National Rifle Association is watching this happen. You probably think you know how this ends. You think the NRA starts screaming about Second Amendment rights and Reagan defends the patriots against the tyranny of the state, right? Wrong. Reagan said there was no reason why on the street today a citizen should be carrying loaded weapons. The NRA? They didn't defend the gun owners, they helped write the law to disarm them. Why? Because the year was 1967. The protesters were the Black Panthers, and this is the story of the Mulford Act, the moment history flipped the script on gun control. If you think the Second Amendment is just about red versus blue, you're looking at the wrong map. Today, we're going to look at the weird, the messy, and the scientific reality of the right to bear arms. So let's go back to 1967. The Black Panthers weren't just marching for show. They were conducting cop-watching patrols in Oakland. They'd follow police cars armed to the teeth holding law books. It was perfectly legal. California had open carry. If you didn't point the gun at anyone, you were good. But the establishment panicked. Republican Assemblyman Don Mulford introduced AB 1591 to ban open carry. He explicitly said it was to get the Panthers. And when the Panthers showed up at the Capitol to protest, it backfired. The image of armed black men terrified the legislature. The bill passed with massive bipartisan support. Reagan signed it. The NRA supported it. Now, usually when people argue about guns, someone says, the Founding Fathers only knew about muskets. They couldn't predict machine guns. Well, let me introduce you to James Puckle. In 1718, decades before the Revolution, Puckle patented this monstrosity, the defense gun. It was a tripod-mounted rapid-fire cannon. It fired 9 rounds a minute. A musket fired 3. But that's not the weird part. Puckle was, let's say, creative with his ammo. He designed round bullets for use against Christians, but for the Muslim Turks, he designed square bullets. Why? Because he thought they would hurt more. The patent literally says it's to convince them of the benefits of Christian civilization. Spoiler, it didn't catch on. Then there's the Girandoni Air Rifle. This is the real deal. Lewis and Clark carried it. It didn't use gunpowder. It used compressed air stored in the buttstock. It held 22 rounds. You could fire them all in seconds. When they met Native American tribes, Lewis would fire this thing. Pop, 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 pop. No smoke, no reloading. So if we have these rights, why are gun laws so different across states? Think of the Bill of Rights as a dry sponge. In 1791, it only wiped up messes made by the federal government. If a state wanted to ban guns or speech, the sponge didn't touch it. Then came the 14th Amendment in 1868. It was a bucket of water. It soaked the sponge, allowing it to clean up state laws too. This is called incorporation. But here's the catch. The Supreme Court squeezed the water out slowly, drop by drop. Freedom of speech was incorporated early. The Second Amendment? That didn't get squeezed out until 2010. That's why Chicago could ban handguns for decades, but can't anymore. Legal theory is dry, but the sponge is wet. We talk about tyranny a lot. It's an abstract concept, but in 1946, in Athens, Tennessee, it was real. The local government was corrupt. Sheriff Pat Mansfield was rigging elections and beating people up. But then the GIs came home from World War II, and they weren't having it. They ran their own ticket. On Election Day, the sheriff's deputies stole the ballot boxes and locked themselves in the jail. The GIs didn't call a lawyer. They went to the armory. They got rifles, they got dynamite, they surrounded the jail. They said, "Bring out the ballots." The sheriff said no, so the GIs opened fire. This wasn't a riot, it was a siege. Eventually, the GIs blew the jail door off its hinges. The deputies surrendered. The votes were counted. The GIs won. It's the only time in U.S. history where citizens used the Second Amendment to overthrow a corrupt local government and restore democracy, and nobody went to prison for it. The Second Amendment is complicated. It's about technology, race, and law, but mostly it's about power. If you learned something new, hit that like button, and if you want to see us fire a square bullet, share this video.